Buying your first home can feel overwhelming, especially with so much information out online, right? Today we're going to be talking specifically about first-time homebuyers in Wisconsin. And I am joined here today by my husband and business partner, Kevin Clark, broker and owner with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Dream Partners. Thank you so much for joining us, Kev.
I am honored.
Before we dive into the video that we're doing right now, really for?
Right. That's a great question. It's for first-time homebuyers mainly, and first-time homebuyers in southern Wisconsin. While there's lots of good national stuff out there, real estate is mostly local. And so the video's just set for those people that are considering buying their first home, whether they're renting or coming from their parents' house, something like that.
What is the very first step a homeowner in Wisconsin should take before they start touring homes or scouring listings online?
Yeah, a first-time home buyer has a number of first steps. It's not an exact science. The biggest thing, though, before you start touring homes is to find a realtor, number one, that you like and you trust, that can guide you in a process in a way you want to be guided. And then also find a lender, preferably a local lender that people know and other agents know, and that can get you a good deal on your rates, and you can shop around a little bit and get those two things in place. Now, if you meet with one before the other, it's okay.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, but I would start with one of those two.
A lot of people think that they need 20% down. Is that true or false?
What they're trying to do with this whole 20% down thing is avoid what's called PMI, or private mortgage insurance. And PMI is this little bit that's added on to your mortgage payment every month. So now your mortgage is higher if you don't have 20% down. Right. But that doesn't mean you need 20% down. You can buy a home with as little as 0% down, which sounds crazy, but you would have to qualify. There's programs like WIDA loans, there's WIDA conventional and WIDA FHA. And your lender's going to walk you through all of this. There's also VA loans if you're a vet that you can qualify with 0% down. But most conventional loans, the minimum amount down is 3.5%. But the PMI goes in increments of 5% in terms of how it lowers. And so I would recommend 5% just to get a little bit lower PMI if you can do it.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see first-time home buyers make when buying a home in Wisconsin?
I would say from the ones that I've worked with, and I try not to allow them to make those mistakes. That's the first thing. But some people they really think they're buying their forever home. Right. And they really push hard, and they go to a lender, and the lender asks for their information and asks for their W-2s or 1099s if they're self-employed, their income, their debt, all that stuff. They run their credit check, and then the lender uses a formula and spits out, here's what you're approved for. But generally speaking, lenders aren't asking them, how do you want to live? What do you want to do in your free time? What type of spare money do you need? I think the biggest mistake that first-time homebuyers in southern Wisconsin make is that they end up overbuying for their lifestyle and what they want to do. And then they end up over-mortgaged and then living paycheck to paycheck and struggling.
Right, and I suppose a lot of times first-time homebuyers that you see don't tend to have, they're young, they don't have kids yet. If they decide to have kids, they don't have their dogs or their 2 cars or 3 cars or whatever that other things that they need, and so they're not really for sure. And if they over mortgage themselves, they're just going to find trouble later on.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But you're trying to prevent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
just have those conversations ahead of time.
Yeah, exactly. So when buyers ask, what can I actually afford in Wisconsin right now? How do you help them think about that?
Well, that's a personal question for everybody, and it depends on the money coming in. And I do like to talk to my first time, especially the younger buyers, about the fact that in their career, like if they're in their mid-20s, upper 20s, that they're just kind of getting started in their career, and their income growth will be pretty sharp. It will rise pretty sharp over the next 10 years if they're working hard and doing it right. And so the big mistake then in terms of affordability would be obviously buying too much of a house, but they may be able to afford that knowing their income's going to rise, and they just have to plan ahead. And it's like, if you're willing to delay that gratification of taking a trip every year, of having free time and doing lots of fun events and spending money, going out to eat all the time, and you want to do that for a couple of years till your income catches up, then you might be okay. You got to know what you're going to spend and what that house is going to do towards your spending ability.
Right. So some planning obviously takes
A lot of planning.
takes effect.
Yeah, definitely.
Once someone is pre-approved, what does the home buying process usually look like, especially here in Wisconsin? I know it's a little bit different across the states, but here in southern Wisconsin, what does that look like from making an offer to getting the keys?
Well, there's a lot of stuff in between, but
Yeah.
it would start with developing a search around criteria that this home buyer is looking for. You know, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, where do they want to live, what are their absolutely must not haves. Like, I cannot have a house with no garage. I know that's a double negative, but it works in terms of the logic when we're doing searches.
Right.
And so we got to put those parameters in and start finding houses and then looking at those in the areas that they want to buy in. And then once we identify a house they want to make an offer on, then we talk about that offer, and we might do a comparative market analysis on that home to see if it's worth it. I don't want to see somebody overpay for a house just like they don't want to overpay for a house. And so just trying to guide them along the way. And we make a competitive offer. We find out from the other agents if there's other offers on the table, but we don't get to know how much they are. So there's a lot of negotiation going on and trying to figure out strategy. So we figure out that strategy, write an offer, submit the offer, sit on pins and needles for about 24 to 48 hours, probably don't get much sleep, and then we get an answer back. And sometimes that answer is yes, they'll accept your offer. Sometimes the answer is maybe, you get a counter offer. And sometimes the answer is no, we're going to reject your offer, and then we start that process over. It can be a little overwhelming at times for first-time home buyers, so we try to set the stage with a nice consultation ahead of time where we sit down and talk about all these things before we even look at houses.
Right. First-time home buyers, never been in the game before. What do you share about expectations of, you're going to get the first house you put a offer in on? How do you explain that? Because I'm sure emotions can get really high for people, especially first-time home buyers. They're just so excited about doing this.
Absolutely. As a real estate agent that's working for them, I really try to help set expectations and mitigate all of those waves of emotion that come with buying a house. I usually say up front, even in our meeting, don't expect to get the first house we write an offer on, but it could happen. But also, don't be surprised if you want to make an offer on the first house you see either. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's about timing and just how it happens to work out. And sometimes it does work out and we get that offer accepted right away. And other times it takes 5, 6, 7. I've had as many as 9 offers where 8 of them didn't get accepted and the 9th one they did. You got to take a positive attitude moving forward.
Right. I guess you would just say, hey, this wasn't the right house for you. If you didn't get it, there's a reason why. And we just don't know sometimes.
And we just pray that a better one comes along for a better price.
What's the average for a first-time home buyer time frame? I mean, I know you've been with young people that it's been quick to up to 3 or 4 years. What's your longest?
Right. Probably 5 years working with a buyer until they finally got the house that they wanted, and in a whole different value too. Started at maybe $350, ended at $550, but 5 years later, that's where we were. And then there's been times where it's super fast. We meet with somebody, sit down, do a consult with them here in the office, find a house that they like, go out and see it, write an offer, get it accepted. They're in their house in 40 days, possibly, or even less. So I'd say average though, I would expect to spend at least 2 to 3 months of going through the process.
And I know you're not afraid to meet with people several months early on. You tell them, come on in, let's understand what's going on. 7 months, a year, it doesn't matter, obviously. 4 or 5 years.
Right.
You've been patient to work with people and they've been patient, and it's right timing for everybody.
Yeah, and I think, planning is important. And so if people want to plan longer than others, I'm all game and for it. Like, let's help you do that planning. Yeah. Let's sit down first, go through the process, figure out what you're approved for. If it's not what you're looking for, you want certain characteristics of a home that this isn't fitting in, and you need to make more money, then go out and make more money and get approved for the amount you want.
Yeah. I would say that first step is even just sitting down with you.
Yeah, I think it's
or any of our agents actually, and just talking through it and not worried about buying next month.
Right.
So many people all of a sudden, especially I think those that are renting, and all of a sudden it comes time, we got to get out, we only have a month or 2.
Right.
We say if you sign a lease, but then still meet with us a few months later.
If you know,
right?
If you
even
have
if it's
this
10 months in.
Right. If you have this desire for that, when you sign that lease, that it will be your last lease you sign, then that's the time to find a realtor that you can work with and meet with us. We'll be happy to do that, and if we're a great fit, then we want to work with you.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, a lot of home buyers are nervous about timing right now. So what would you say, is it now a good time to buy a home or not?
Yes.
Because they're probably asking you, right? They ask you all the time. Is it a good
they
time
do,
to buy a
and
home?
it's different for everybody. And we don't have the luxury of having a crystal ball that says, this is the lowest the rate's gonna be in the next 3 years. And so you should buy now. And this is the lowest the prices are gonna be for the next 3 years. You should buy now. No, we don't get the luxury of having that. I think that timing the market is not that possible. When you're buying a home you're going to live in, as opposed to buying one that you're going to invest in, it's a little bit different. So when you talk about timing the market, I get investors trying to time the market. They want to buy at the lows and sell at the highs because they're investing. That's their whole purpose. As owner occupants, if we're going to buy a home and live in it, it's just, when do we want to get in there? Do you want to pay another year of leasing at 100% interest, which is technically what it is? You're not getting any gain from that. Or do you want to get in a home? You can live in the house long enough to outride any of the waves and still be able to sell at possibly a high time. Timing to sell is probably a little more important than timing to buy.
Right. All right, last question here. If someone's watching this and just starting out and feeling unsure, what is the most important piece of advice that you would give first-time homebuyers in Wisconsin?
The most important piece of advice, you know how I am with like favorites and the most important, it's hard for me to define those.
Right, well, I know.
I would say to meet with somebody and get a feel for them. Find somebody that you trust to help you out, and lean on the professionals in the industry. Don't try and go it alone. And the biggest thing is you don't know what you don't know, especially first-time home buyers. And so you may be thinking to yourself, like, this is going to be my forever home. I hear that quite often. And you're 25 to 30 years old thinking it's your forever home. Well, you've never owned a home yet. Right. So how do you know what your forever home is going to be?
You don't know what you don't know.
I've lived in several, and I've had issues with all of them. And I had to learn what the issues were by living in each of them.
Yeah.
And so you get to know more as you grow and get older, and I think it won't be your forever home. It'll be your first home, and it'll be a good learning experience, a good starter home, and if you do it right, it'll be a good investment that will catapult you to your next home that will be better, and you will make some money off of your first home.
Good advice.
Thanks.
Well, I hope this has been helpful a little bit for those of you that are first-time home buyers and making you feel a little bit less overwhelmed. So if you have any questions, though, feel free to leave us a comment or give us a call, and we're happy to help.